After a 2-week break and another delayed translation, Chapter 43 of Baki Rahen has officially released, and it is a solid one for sure. However, before I start today's video, if you would like to interact with me, my community, show off your art, drop some memes, talk in general, or maybe even self-promote, then you can join the Discord that can be found in the description box below. But anyway, in the last chapter of Baki Rahen, Jack had fully recovered from his injuries that he had sustained after his encounter with Pickle, and after finally confronting and meeting KAORU Hanayama, Hanayama had landed a punch onto Jack's face, leading us into today's chapter. Chapter 43 of Baki Rahen, titled Just Brute Force, and the cover of today's chapter is Hanayama wearing his iconic suit, with his glasses off and stowed away into his jacket pocket, as Hanayama is now looking more intimidating than ever. And we pick up right where we had initially left off last chapter, with Jack Hanma now throwing a punch at KAORU Hanayama, leading with his right foot as Jack punched down towards Hanayama's face, and Jack's fist was inches away from landing. However, Hanayama did not seem to be troubled in the slightest, as an extremely quick movement was then shown and a hit was landed. But it was not Hanayama that had been hit, but it was rather Jack Hanma that had taken the impact. Hanayama had managed to rotate his body entirely, leading to an almost perfect hook landing in the middle of Jack Hanma's face, and Hanayama had done all of this mere milliseconds before he would have been hit by Jack. And in the process of punching Jack, Hanayama had actually managed to dodge Jack's attack in the process. This punch from Hanayama left Jack flying backwards into the air sideways, as Jack's face was left impacted. Whoa, a fight. The crowd seems to have not actually anticipated this fight to actually happen. Jack's head had then landed onto the ground and he was stunned as his eyes rolled around in his head. However, Jack was not unconscious yet. Jack had landed onto his neck, with the lower half of his body starting from his torso, being held into the air by Jack's neck. Jack had moved his legs and leaped onto his knees, taking on somewhat of an animalistic stance as if Jack was a lion, as Jack also had his mouth open and teeth clenched. And as this was happening, Hanayama and a member of his organization were both confused and intrigued at what was about to happen. However, that is, up until Hanayama had looked down at his fist. Hanayama looked far less confused as he noticed that his knuckle had been completely sliced open and was bleeding. This is the first time that I've seen the boss's fist bleed, and Jack had then said, "You got a little something on your hand there, but me? I'm fine." As Jack then proceeded to tap onto his titanium teeth, with Jack's teeth withstanding the force of Hanayama's punch, as these teeth are practically a part of Jack's jaw, meaning Jack's teeth can only practically break if Jack's jaw also breaks in the process. However, Jack had not managed to enrage Hanayama, as he had simply taken his injured fist and put his hands up into his signature stance, and everyone around began to have a far more serious look on their faces as Hanayama was then ready to continue this battle. And this is when a man in the crowd spectating this fight had then began to imitate Hanayama's stance. I had heard about this. This is how Hanayama KAORU forgoes defense in favor of total and absolute offense. It cannot be called a martial art, it is just not quite there. It is more of a comparison of strength, with Jack now facing Hanayama. It is a matter of which of us wields the greater brute force. But it is not just some contest, it is what makes a fight. Hanayama then began to wind up his punch, and this is the iconic punch that Hanayama often utilizes. With the zeal that he has for that simplicity, I can see now. This guy is bad news, as Jack was then yet again hit into his face, on the same spot, directly in the middle of his face. But this time, with Hanayama's extremely powerful punch that he had winded up, and Jack's face is caved in as Hanayama's fist is proceeding to go into Jack's head more and more. Hanayama is currently doing very well, especially when considering that it was stated that this fight would not last for very long. But one thing to consider is that this second and more importantly more powerful punch is with the same hand that had been injured during the first punch. And if Hanayama's first punch could cut his hand as much as it did, I believe this punch could actually backfire, as the only difference between the punch that injured Hanayama and this one is more power being behind the current punch, and that is honestly not a good thing for Hanayama in my opinion, as not only will this attack do more damage to Hanayama than the last one, but that area that is taking this recoil is already weakened, meaning Hanayama will have more blowback damage to an already weakened head. And also, when considering the damage that Jack is taking, I believe that this attack does not put Jack down or even at least stun him. This could be extremely bad for Hanayama. And of course, Hanayama does have a whole other hand, but this fight is supposedly not going to be a long one, meaning that Hanayama may not even have long enough to utilize his left hand. And also, there will be a break next week, with chapter 44 of Baki Rahen releasing on April 24th in Asia and April 23rd for Europe and the United States. Today's chapter was very short and brief with only 15 pages, but I genuinely enjoyed this chapter a lot. I believe that the dynamic between Hanayama and Jack is just absolute peak. Not Baki Dao peak quite yet, but I believe that Baki Rahen is beginning to get better every chapter, and I believe Itagaki slowly unveiling Hanayama's strength to Jack is just genius, as Hanayama physically has everything that Jack Hanma has always wanted and fought for. Hanayama was naturally born strong, while Jack on the other hand was born with weak bones and an unnatural strength in the form of steroids. And due to the lack thereof of Baki Rahen chapters weekly, I've been thinking about covering things like comics like Absolute Batman, mangas such as Dan Dan Dan, or really any ongoing manga currently. And to be completely honest, I'm not really sure what mangas you guys enjoy. So let me know in the comment section below any good ongoing manga that you would like me to cover. But that is going to be all for today's chapter. Let me know in the comment section below, did you enjoy today's chapter? And if you enjoyed today's video and would like to support me, then you can leave a like and subscribe. It is completely free on your end and helps me out way more than you may think. And once again, if you would like to interact with me, my community, show off your art, drop some memes, talk in general, or maybe even self-promote, then you can join the Discord that can be found in the description box below. But that will be all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I wish you all a great spring. As for me personally, my spring break is upcoming, and if you had already had your spring break, I wish you the best for the rest of the year, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!